Hello everyone, welcome to 3ddesignacademy.com. In this lesson, I'm going to show you guys how to make the tailgate of the Ram pickup truck. Now this is what it looks like. I think it's got a lot of features that is present in a lot of automotive modeling. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so right now I have a file that's set up with the canvas and approximate size of the vehicle. Of course, because this is a picture, it's not going to be exact, but that is okay. So now I'm just going to go to the rear view. Now, before I start, I'm not going to make it exactly like this. I'm probably going to simplify some of these ones on the outside, and I'm just going to concentrate on the center portion. So let's go ahead and make it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a degree 3 curve and I'm just going to strike it from here to here like this. And of course, because it's going through the center, as anything that is going through the center should be, I'm going to just go ahead and turn on symmetry like this. Now, of course, the tailgate is going to live somewhere on the rear, so I'm just going to put it there. Because I set this as the primary, the feature that you see on the bottom, I'm going to just stop it a little bit short of the end. All right, so let's give it a little bit of acceleration. So I'm just going to push it down like this, and I'm just going to put, it wouldn't be completely flat, so I'm just going to give it a little bit of volume like that. And that's going to be the base for this one. So what I'm going to do, actually, you know what? Yeah, let's start over here. Now, as you can see over here, it's not exactly symmetrical, but that's okay. I can just move the canvas over just a little bit like this. And, oh, let's go ahead and make sure that I'm not grabbing the curve. So let's go ahead and just pick the canvases off. I'm just going to, okay, so I think that's good. I'm just going to move it down just a little bit, and I'm just going to center pivot, and I'm just going to scale it just a little bit like that. All right, so if you look at this image over here, you'll see that there is a little bit of darker shadow and it becomes light as it goes to the outboard side. What does that mean? That means that this is probably flat, but as you go up over here, there's probably more distance, as in this point is probably a little bit more rearward. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy and paste this curve over here, and I'm just going to put it there like this. And what I'm going to do is, actually, you know what? Let's make this that flat. Now, I'm not sure if it's supposed to be that flat, but let's give it a shot, because I'm going to be putting a lot of volume in other things. All right, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to strike a curve just up and down. And actually, let me just make it a degree 2 like that. Like that, and I'm just going to do a rail. Now when you're doing this, I would say just if it's anything that goes across the center, I will just stick with parallel sweep mode, and I'm just going to do this one first like this. Now I usually put the curve at the center, really depends on the situation, but this one, if you put it on the side, it doesn't really matter if you pick this as a gen or this as a rail or this as a gen, so whatever works for you. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. Actually, you know what? Let's move to a different picture. I think this one is a little bit more clear. Okay, so because I'm using the exact same curve, this should work out nicely. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to push this a little bit rearward in car. And I'm going to show you how this is done. So because all the gestures are exactly the same between the top and the bottom, if I were to put a filler between the two, it's going to create a nice gesture. It's not going to have an inconsistent highlight. So if I were to just pick this one down like this, and let's go ahead and do a freeform blend. So I'm going to make side 1 curvature, side 2 position. And if I were to do something like that, and oh, let's go ahead and looks like I was in the wrong layer. So let me just make sure that's there. And I'm going to put the rest of it in the default layer like this. So if I were to just shade it up, you'll see that there is a very nice consistent highlight. Now, but if you look at this one over here, you'll see that it's becoming a little bit smaller. So what you want to do is I think I'm going to push these a little bit forward in car. And that's going to give you a nice highlight from light, dark to light like this. Of course, there's more feature over here, so let's go ahead and do that as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to strike another curve. Now, if you want to put it as a center, really up to you. But I'm just going to go up like this. And now because this is at the center, you do have to pick this one first. Otherwise, if I were to do this one first, you will see that it creates a span in the middle. So if you look at the structure, this is not the best. So if you put the curve at the center, I always suggest using a parallel sweep mode and pick this as a gen and this one as a rail. Okay, so that surface is there, but in this one, if you look at this, you'll see that it's almost flush. It's almost positional. So when you're doing this one, actually, let's go back over here. I'm just going to make sure of the height. So I'm just going to drag this up like that. And well, maybe a little bit higher, maybe up to this point. I think that's where the theoretical is. So I think that should be good. And now what I'm going to do, well, actually, it should actually go up to here. It doesn't really matter because I'm going to projecting anyways. All right, so now I'm just going to grab this curve over here and I'm going to, because I duplicated this curve and this is exactly straight up and down, I think that should work. Now, it is quite possible that there's a little more volume here. So if you want to address that volume, then you probably want to just grab this one and just maybe push it a little bit forward. And that should be good as well. Now, if you do that though, you do have to make sure to redo this curve. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do an insert, and instead of span, I do like to use a COS, and I'm just going to put it over here, and I'm going to duplicate it from that. And because same thing as you see over here, there's a little bit more shadow over here, which means that you should take this one, and I'm going to just go ahead and turn symmetry on. I'm just going to push it a little bit forward like this. That's going to allow this nice shadow that's going from basically 0 to max to back to 0. So let's go ahead and do that. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to just do a bi-rail like this. So I'm going to say 1 and 2. I'm going to say 1 and 2 like this. Right now it's a little bit long. That's okay. I'm just going to go ahead and use curve segments like this to snap it there, and that should be good. So now, well, let's give it a little test. So what I'm going to do is, well, let's actually use a COS. I'm just going to strike a curve over here. Now I am going to shape it so that it actually matches the card like this. But just to demonstrate this concept of having consistent thickness, so if I were to, well, let's use a draft tool for now. So if I were to put just a straight draft, you will see that this distance between this one and this one over here, it's very, very consistent, which is really nice. And that's going to allow your basically highlight over here is to also have that nice consistency. So let me just move this up over here like this. And I'm just going to do a freeform blend from here to here like that. Now I know that the CV structure over here is a little bit wacky, but that's okay. Maybe I'll do an explicit control. But if you look at this, you'll see that there is a very nice consistent highlight. Okay, so now that's done, let's go ahead and actually shape it. So I'm just going to get rid of that. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to extend this one. Now notice that when I extend this, because I set it exactly to this edge, everything should follow nicely. So I'm just going to extend that one a little bit. And let's go back to the rear view and let's trim this out. Now I'm going to reuse this curve because I think that's fine. And I'm just going to push this one over here. And there's probably a little bit of curvature this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to extend this one like that. And let's just give it a little bit of push up like that. And that should be good. And I'm just going to go ahead and strike a curve from here to here. And let's give it a little bit of volume because I don't think anything should be 100% perfectly flat. Okay, so maybe I'll just angle a little bit. I think that's good. And now I'm going to go ahead and copy paste this. Actually, you know what? Let's do an offset. So I'm just going to grab all of these and I'm just going to do an offset like this, and I'm just going to make sure that it's going the right direction. Make sure that I can actually pick this arrow over here. That's good. And I'm going to make sure that it's set to NUV because I do like CV structure, how irrelevant of how simple it is, I do like the CV structure to be a little bit clean. So I'm going to just offset it about 50 mils, maybe a little bit more. I'm going to say maybe 70. I think that should be good. And yeah, I think that's good. So now I'm just going to go ahead and grab this surface. Oh, actually this might be trimmed. So I'm going to untrim it, delete the COS that was there, and I'm just going to project. So I'm going to grab the bottom one, or this one over here, and I'm just going to grab all these curves. I'm going to project like this from view, and I'm going to grab the top one. Let me just show you. So random color. So basically the bottom one, as you can see, that is the one that I projected. This is the one that's going to be projected next. So I'm going to grab these and I'm just going to project it like that. All right, so let's go ahead and trim it. So I'm just going to go ahead and trim these. Obviously, I do need a curve over here. This is the one thing that's a little bit annoying about building things across the center instead of just doing it one half and doing the other. But this is necessary. So let's go ahead and mirror onto the other side, and I'm just going to project it here, and I'm going to project this one over here. All right, so let's go ahead and trim. So I'm just going to trim this one like that, and I'm going to trim that one. Oh, actually, this one does need to be trimmed this way like that. All right, so when you're doing this, there are two ways to put a fillet over here. You can just use a freeform blend with G2 on side one and G0 on the other. So with this one, you're going to get a transition like this. Of course, you want to do connect ends over here, and I'm just going to do connect ends over here, and I'm going to do the same thing over here like this, and what you get is a very nice transition like that. Now, of course, I do need to put a fillet over here. Another thing you can do is if you let's say this one continues out here and needs to transition onto a different feature, then what I also like to do is just to do a straight surface. So instead of having a highlight like this, I would just do something like that, and that's going to have a feature like this. Now, obviously, if you want to put a little bit of crown, you can also, but since, well, actually, I should probably do that. So that is another option. Now, since I have this one on the top as well, maybe I'll show you, well, the highlight characteristic is a little bit different between just doing a G2 over here, freeform blend over here, and position here versus doing a fillet like this. So maybe I'll show you both. Now, for the bottom one, I think for the bottom one, I think I'm just going to keep it as, keep it a little bit simple. So I'll just make it G2 over here and just do like this. And for the top one, maybe I'll show you guys a method where it's just positioned over here. All right, now that's it. However, I think this shadow is a little bit too strong. So if that's the case, what you could do is you could try to just reduce the amount of volume. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, well, I think since history is gone, I'm just going to turn symmetry on this one, and I'm just going to pick the CVs, or you can do a transform CV and just you can just do a Hall selection mode like this, and you can just push it a little bit forward like that, and that's going to, as you can see over here, reduce the amount of shadow that's there. Now that's what I were. I don't know why it's not updating as it should. Oh, there it is. That's a little weird. Okay, so there we go. I think that's a little bit more subtle, a little bit better than what I had. So I think that's good. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm just going to get rid of that. Now, obviously this has a fillet. So let's go ahead and put that on. Now, when you're doing a fillet like this, traditionally, you probably want to use a surface fillet. So you probably want to do existing theoretical. Of course, you want G2, and maybe it's going to be a little bit bigger. And for the form factor, for something like this, I do like to keep it at 1. And I'm just going to say edge align on each side like this. And let's see if it actually forms. So I'm just going to make sure the direction is good. There we go. Now, with the existing theoretical, with the quarter fillet, it's probably going to be a little bit weird, but maybe not. Okay, so I think this this time it's actually, oh, there we go. You'll see that you'll notice a little bit of waviness in the tangent line. So this is why I do prefer existing theoretical, because that's going to take the theoretical exactly and just to give you a nice transition over here. So let's go ahead and make the fillet a little bit bigger, because I think it's supposed to be a little bit softer. So I think 70 works nicely, and I think same thing over here. So now if you look at the highlight, you see a nice transition over here, and that's fading away nicely as it goes to the outboard side. Now that's however, I think it could be a little bit bigger. So instead of 70, maybe I'll just make it 100, just to make that transition a little bit softer and a little bit nicer, like that. And I think, yeah, I think that looks a little bit better as well. All right. Okay, so now that's done, let's go ahead and do the top. Now, obviously, I do need to trim that, but I'm going to leave that for a little bit later. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. So I'm just going to duplicate this curve like this, and I'm just going to bring it up. Notice that I'm always using the same gestured curve. That is key. Now, obviously, this one does have a little bit of crown. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the curve over here, and I'm just going to turn symmetry on like this. I'm just going to give it a little bit more over here, a little more volume like this. I think that's pretty good. And now I'm just going to go ahead and do a freeform blend between this one and this one. Now, when you're doing this one, you have to be a little bit careful. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to take the CV. Obviously, this one is a little bit more proud again at the center. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to push this one a little bit this way. Now, however, be mindful that the gesture over here and all the way through, all the way from the top to bottom, are all the same. So that's going to give you a really consistent highlight all the way through. Just be aware of that. Now, this one, on the other hand, however, I think it's a little bit different. And the reason why I say it's a little bit different is because if you look at this highlight over here, I feel like there is a slight break. Now, if you just want to leave it like this, that's fine. But if you want to introduce a little break, however, you do have to be using the same curve as I've done before. But if you want to use a little bit different actually break, what I would suggest is I'm going to just copy and paste this curve over here. And let's say the break, well, let's break it a little bit this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this exact same curve, and I'm just going to reduce it. Let's see, I think this one, I'm just going to delete the construction history over here, and I'm just going to extend it so that it snaps right here. And this one, with the symmetric modeling on, I'm just going to snap it right over here. Okay, and what I'm going to do is this one, I'm just going to push it a little bit this way forward, and maybe just, I don't think it's super hard, but just a subtle enough transition will work. So I'm going to just do a freeform blend between this one, but because its center section is a little bit different, I'm just going to say default over here, and I'm going to say default on the other side. Now with this one, so this is what you do. I'm just going to take a stretch tool over here, and using the same gestured curve that I originally generated, I'm just going to use it over here. So now if I were to do a transition between this one and this one, you'll notice that it's going to create a slight subtle break like that. Well, it's kind of hard to see. Maybe I should just make it a little bit more prominent. So I'm just going to push it a little bit this way, and I'm going to use the stretch tool. So just to exaggerate a little bit, maybe I'll just do this. Now, I think this might be a little bit too subtle, but that's okay. But if you look at this one from an angle, I guess sort of, you can sort of see it. Maybe I'll just exaggerate it quite a bit. So I'm just going to push this one quite a lot like this, and I'm just going to use the stretch tool over here to snap it like that. Now, the reason why the highlight it's not breaking is because it's perfectly horizontal. So I think that's why. but this is going to give you a little bit of break within the plan view while still making sure that the gesture is really nicely translating from top to bottom. Okay, so now that's done, let's go ahead and do the top over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to transition it back to a nice clean curve, or you can of course just use these as well, whatever you want. But well, actually you're not. I think just keeping those gestures the same might be better. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to just take the CV and make sure that the height is the same as this one, because I'm pretty sure the top of the pickup bed is going to be horizontal. And I'm just going to take this one over here and I'm going to push it, and I'm going to grab all these CVs over here and I'm just going to use my right mouse one to make sure that they're all lined up. And now let's go ahead and push this a little bit this way, so to represent that top surface. And let's go ahead and take a look. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab a freeform blend and I'm going to snap it from here to here like this. And obviously this is going to have a little bit of crown. I'm going to say relative proportional. Okay, proportional, and I'm just going to give it, I don't know, maybe something like that. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm gonna pick these two curves over here and like this. And I think that's got a, I think that's got a really nice gesture. I think that's pretty good. Nice highlight over here, nice and horizontal, and that is looking pretty good. Okay, so to finish it up on the top, I'm just going to, well, I'm not going to make this tailgate cap over the tailgate. So I'm just going to do a quick draft just so that I can, you know, have something on the top surface, something like this, and I'm just going to call it done. Okay, so I think the base surfaces are looking pretty good. I think the highlight is nice. Oh, this one, however, I am going to do this. Instead of making just a freeform blend, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a position like this. Well, maybe a little crown. So let's go ahead and proportional. I'm just going to give it just a tiny bit of crown like this. And I'm going to do a fillet between these ones instead of just doing a freeform blend like this, just to show you guys two different methods. Okay, so for this one, let's go ahead and again, I'm just going to do a little crown. Nope. Why is the crown option not? Oh, position, proportional. I'm just going to give it a tiny bit of crown like this, and I think that's good. Now, I know that there is a gap over here, but that is okay. Now, that said, however, this one should be connect ends like this. And I'm just going to make sure that they are connected over here as well. Yeah, the reason why I say it's okay even if there is a gap is only because the crown value between this one and this one is the same. Otherwise, it's probably better to just use a bi-rail and make sure that this edge is accounted for. All right, so I think I'm going to divide this into two parts and finish the tailgate in the next one. All right, so that is it for part 1, and we will pick this up in the next lesson. Thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next one. Want to learn Autodesk Alias and digital sculpting? Then become a member at 3ddesignacademy.com, where you'll find hundreds of video tutorials ranging from basics, including curve creations, intermediate level tutorials such as this wheel, all the way to Class A modeling of the entire car exterior. Interested? Visit 3ddesignacademy.com.